Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel for another video today. Welcome to my weekly Mounjaro update where I just share with you guys kind of what's been going on over the past week with me, what's been going on in the news, kind of everything GLP-1 related. If you're new here, my name is Brittany. I have lost 115 pounds on branded Mounjaro and then on compounded tirzepatide, and I share all of that here. Interview stories with some of you guys. I share my personal journey. I share news. I share deep dives into things. I'm really an open book here, and so if that sounds like something you would be interested in, I would love to have you subscribe, stick around, and join in on the fun. So today's actually Tuesday as I'm filming this video, the same day you're watching it. I typically post this video on Mondays, but my kids were actually off of school this week, so they have fall break Monday through Wednesday, and so typically the way my Monday worked yesterday was just not a typical Monday. We ended up having a family day. We went to this really cool arcade that my kids saw on YouTube. If you watch, or your kids watch, Arcade Matt, he's so cool. Like if you want just like a down home fun guy who just goes to arcades and says family friendly language, like instead of bad words he'll say shebang, you know, and he'll call himself a dingleberry, you know, stuff like that, then he's really cool. But anyway, he went to this arcade, so we decided to go check it out yesterday. All that to say, I did not get my update video filmed, so I swapped it and posted my Ask Me Anything, and then today you guys are seeing the update. Okay, so I do want to say before I jump into my update that you guys were that Ask Me Anything yesterday was received so well. You guys were so incredibly responsive to that video, and you seem to really like that topic. So I think I'm going to do a part 2 because there were a lot of questions just within that video on the comment section that I feel like I could address. So if you are somebody that has a question that is like, I don't know, a question you just don't feel like others answer, a more taboo topic, something like that, leave it below, leave the question below, email me the question if you don't want to publicly state the question, and I will do a part 2 of that Ask Me Anything series, because I think that it's really fun to talk about things that like nobody wants to necessarily bring up, but everybody wants the answers to, right? So leave your questions down below, and I will try to get another one of those up next week if we get enough questions, which I'm sure we will. So with all that being said, last week I weighed 141 pounds. This week my weigh-in was 142. I'm fine with that. I actually started my cycle this week, so I'm up a little bit because of that, but I did, as you guys know, also increase my dosage to 7.5. I was on like 5 to 6 and I went to 7.5 because I was having some more food noise. I was noticing a little bit more hunger, mostly cravings. So I mentioned in a maintenance video that I did recently that I was having more like sweets cravings, which actually is really not normal for me. I'm somebody that does not typically crave sweets, but I was doing so. So I decided after talking to my doctor to increase to 7.5 and see how that made me feel. And so far so good. I was struggling last week, I mentioned, with some insomnia, and I say insomnia in a way that's like more than like just 2 days of not sleeping well. I had somebody comment that, but insomnia has been a side effect for me the entire 3-year period, as a lot of you guys know. So I use the word insomnia with truth and not with just like, oh, I didn't sleep for 2 days, so I'm an insomniac. But I started taking a melatonin, a 5 milligram, I think, it's a gummy from Sam's Club, like the Members Mark brand. And it's been really helping me. I've been falling asleep pretty quickly and I've been sleeping well. The only thing I notice now is that I wake up really early. So it's almost like my body's like, okay, we're falling asleep at 10:30. Then you need to get up at 5 or 5:30, whatever. Like you've had good deep sleep, you're done now. So I am waking up earlier and I'm having some weird dreams. I wouldn't say weird dreams, just like dreams. And I'm not typically a dreamer, but I will take all of that for falling asleep easily and not laying in bed for 2 hours every night trying to fall asleep. So there's my little update for the week. I'm feeling really well and really encouraged on the 7.5 milligram dose. Maintenance is not linear, y'all. Weight loss is not linear, and maintenance isn't either. So I'm really feeling good about going up to 7.5, and we'll kind of see how that goes over the next, you know, I don't know, until I feel like I need to change something, then I'll keep going with 7.5 milligrams. Now, speaking of maintenance, I did want to, I think I mentioned this already, but sometimes I can't remember what I've said and what I haven't. I don't know. But if you did not see, Orderly did lower their BMI requirement. So if you're a new patient, the BMI requirement is now 25. And if you are an established user of a GLP-1, it's 20. So the good thing about this, this is the part where I don't think I mentioned, if you are somebody that is low dosed the entire time, so you're on 2.5 milligrams, say you're microdosing, something like that, and you come in and say you're on 2.5 milligrams and you have a BMI of at least 20, then it will still offer you the starter pack, which in turn can make you have 6 months of 2.5 for $4.99 of tirzepatide. So a really affordable price. So I wanted to mention that. That's actually a trick that I just learned. I didn't know. I thought that if you said you were on it at all, it wouldn't offer you the starter pack. But apparently if you say you're on 2.5, you have a BMI of at least 20, it'll offer you the $4.99 starter pack. So there's a little tip for if any of you guys are microdosers. I have a link to them always down below, so check them out if you are interested. Okay, my goals for this week. First off, what are your goals for this week? Let me know down below. My goals are to survive. Again, my kids are off until Thursday, but after that, it's going to be, because I'm not really doing any like work the beginning of this week, obviously, besides doing some editing on videos that I filmed last week. So Thursday and Friday are going to be heavy work days for me to prepare for next week, which is fine, but I do still want to try and get my walks in. I walked yesterday. In fact, I'm going to overlay some footage here of the woods. I walked last night while my daughter was at swim practice, and it was just so beautiful out there. Like, the leaves were so fallen that like I didn't know which way was which on the path, which is like my favorite thing ever. Like, so cool. So I did walk yesterday. I probably won't walk today, but my goal is to get, we'll say four walks in this week, and hopefully I'm able to do that. I typically do 5, so we're gonna forfeit 1. Also keeping better track of my water, y'all. I just have been falling off the water bandwagon, and that could be while I'm having some more struggling with like cravings and stuff, because when I don't drink water, my whole body's out of whack. So water, making sure I'm walking. And then I did order a weighted vest, which I think is supposed to come tomorrow on Wednesday. I'm gonna try out this week as well, and then I will let you guys know how I'm liking it next week. It's just one that I ordered off of Amazon with my own money. It's, you know, none of the salesy stuff, just sharing what I found that might or might not work. Okay, so I do actually have a couple of little news update things for this week. And these ones are ones that, you know, I kind of, every week I just go through and I search, like I'll ask Google or ask ChatGPT, or I'll just see different things on content creators where I'll say, what's going on in the GLP-1 world, right? And a variety of things pop up. And typically I try to choose like the ones that are either the most pertinent or the most important, or some that are just, you know, for your information type of thing. And that is what both of these type of are. So the first one is an update on cancer pathways and how different cancer markers are lighting up on PET scans and CT scans in users of GLP-1s. So Alliance Medical did this study that showed that GLP-1 use may cause false identifying markers on PET/CT scans. So there was a doctor in the article, which I'll try to remember to link below, talking about how this could be dangerous, right, for people that aren't aware of your entire journey, that aren't aware of your GLP-1 use, that aren't aware that GLP-1 use can cause this. Because if you've never had anybody in your life that's had cancer, one good example that I can think of, Nan, who I mentioned in my Ask Me Anything, her daughter had colon cancer, and she used to tell us how her scans would go. She would go down to Georgia and get her scans done, and she would come back and say, oh, they found my markers decreased or my markers increased or whatever. And it's just a way that they track the cancer throughout your body. So they'll typically do like scans every so often, depending on how bad your cancer is, how far into remission you are, all of the things, right? So what they're saying is that GLP-1 use can cause false identifying markers. So it can make your markers look worse than they really are. And there's not a whole lot of research showing why that is yet, but apparently something causes it. So they're doing some further research on that, but they obviously in the article were just like, you need to be honest with your doctor. If you're on a GLP-1, your doctor needs to be aware of this, kind of just getting that information out there, because you don't want to have false identifying markers and then get thrown into all these additional costly scans and costly treatment for no reason, because the markers were just because of your GLP-1. So if you're a cancer patient, definitely be honest and upfront about your use of GLP-1s and kind of share this information with them, because I feel like nowadays with GLP-1 community is educating the medical community on a lot of things, because we research and we read and we see all these studies and all of these things that haven't necessarily made their way to them yet. And then they're like, well, what the hell, you know? So yeah, share the information. I will remember to link the article down below. Number 2, so this one's kind of a two-parter. So Fox News, first off, it's Fox News, but Fox News issued a warning against gray market peptides. And so that's the first part of this, right? So they're noting the risk and how that could affect users of GLP-1, how that could affect your health if you use a gray market peptide, blah, 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 blah. But the part that I wanted to talk about with this, because I've beat that horse dead, right? Like the gray market thing. They also noted within the article that the reason for the increase in gray market peptides is because people are desperate for an affordable option of GLP-1s. And so I thought that it was this good sort of two-play, like warning against the risk, but also like, hey, people are doing this because you guys are making them do it. People are being driven to this through not having any other choice or any other option. I was watching Sabina from GLP-1 Winner. She's really big over on TikTok, and she did an interview with the Downsized recently, but she was talking about how she doesn't think that the cost of GLP-1s is going to go down anytime soon, just because of all the new like tariff stuff going on and the green list and all of that. And it's never news that I want to read or want to hear, but I think that Fox News calling them out and saying, hey, this is your fault, Big Pharma. This is your fault that people are being driven to this because of the greed surrounding you in GLP-1s and all the other things. And you know, one point that Sabina made in the difference of cost, and if it is going to go down, you know, they have all these new tariffs being imposed on overseas shipments of peptides, but Eli Lilly just invested like a ton of money in a new warehouse in, I think it's in Virginia, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody will, but they're investing more money in the US market so that they don't have to pay all of these tariffs and cost hikes and all of that stuff. So it's, I don't know. But I also think that compounding is not going anywhere. The way that the judges have worked, if you saw the recent thing of Eli Lilly versus Strive, I believe it was, the judge in that case, it was like a filing issue with Eli Lilly. So essentially the judge threw it out and said, you know, if you refile this correctly, then we can readdress this issue in the court. But the judge did also say that compounding was a lifesaver for a lot of Americans. And so even though he threw the case out because it was improperly filed and Eli Lilly needed to correct that, he also threw that little caveat in there of GLP-1s are a godsend, literally said godsend to the American people. And, you know, I know that there's that whole, I feel like we've crossed like a moral boundary with this. You know, the law used to be there's no stock issue, there's no compounding, right? But it's gotten a lot more like personal, moral, ethical in the GLP-1 space, with judges chiming in, making comments like that. So I don't know, it really could go either way at any point in time. And so it's pretty cool. I think we're literally watching history unfold. That's one thing that Chris and I talked about on my Downsized interview, is we are watching the world being changed in real time. Like, this is such a time to be alive. And medicine, we are watching health and medicine and how people are treated for their health ailments. We are watching that change in real time. And it's just going to be so cool in 20 years to see how the American people are health-wise and how the American people are cost-wise in terms of what they're paying for GLP-1s, and just how it's all going to unfold, addiction and all of the other things that GLP-1s can help treat. So I think that's my little update for today. As far as content for the rest of the week, I decided, so my What I Eat in a Day videos have been doing so well lately. A lot of you guys seem to really like those. And then there's obviously some of you that don't prefer those, but typically those do get pretty good engagement and views on them. So what I decided to do this week is actually take several different meals. You know, I've mentioned before that I have a rotation cycle of meals. I'm literally making a video of that. So you're going to get several different lunch options, several different dinner options, and we're talking easy, GLP-1 friendly protein meals that you can make in like 15 minutes tops. So that one is a lot of editing. I'm hoping to get that one out tomorrow, but that is going to come tomorrow. And then on Thursday, I filmed a video last week. Oh, it's stuff that you should stop doing on your GLP-1 journey that might be hurting you, that you might not be aware of. So got some good stuff coming the rest of the week for you guys. If I'm a little bit less present within the comment section this week, just know that I am enjoying my kids and my family, and Chris is off Monday and Tuesday this week, and so we're just kind of enjoying some time together. I think we're gonna go fall clothes shopping today and do all of the things together. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys tomorrow for all of these cool meal ideas. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.